guys, welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're here once again in this wonderful Rancy room for all things Formula 1. And before we kick things off with the race review, I would just like to send out my condolences to the marshal that was tragically killed at Brands Hatch on Saturday in a club event. A serious accident. I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. And yeah, thank you to all the marshals that do a fabulous job around the world ensuring that motorsport is safe. And without you guys, we wouldn't have racing. We just wouldn't have racing. So I want to say a massive thank you to all the marshals. And it was very tragic news yesterday. I heard that there'd been a big accident, and I was eagerly awaiting the news that it would be good news, and unfortunately it wasn't the news we were after. So yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to all the marshals and massive condolences to the family and friends of the person that was involved. And also my thoughts go out to the driver as well that was involved in that accident. I understand that he is still in hospital, and of course he will have a lot on his mind. He wouldn't have liked to have been in a part of an accident that cost someone's life. So yeah, a big thank you to everyone, all the marshals, and of course that's why I'm wearing orange, to support the Orange Army, who do a fabulous job around the world to ensure that we can have fun, safe racing. So as always, if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out of a maximum of 10 points if they have a particularly good weekend, and I go all the way to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Look out for bonus points though if someone does really well, i.e. an Alpine winning a race, maybe an Aston Martin on the podium too. And of course look out for the minus points as well. If you do extra special for all the wrong reasons, minus points are on offer. I don't think there's any this weekend, but we're going to kick things off, of course, with the race winner, Esteban Ocon. Unbelievable stuff. Absolutely fabulous race in there by Esteban. He was so clever going into turn 1, wasn't he? He was backing out. He was in the middle of a sandwich between Leclerc and Ricardo. He's like, nope, I'm backing out of this. And then Lance Stroll comes harpooning the pair of them out of the way. He's like, yep, cheers, lads. I'm through into P2. And then, of course, on the restart, Lewis Hamilton electing to take the start. The only driver to take the start as well. How crazy was that? The last time we saw so few cars starting a Grand Prix was, of course, in the US 2005, where just 6 cars started. It was crazy, that, wasn't it? Just to see Hamilton lining up there and taking the start all on his own, of course. From there, of course, it was a bad strategy call by Hamilton to go to the grid. Ocon took the lead, and that is where he stayed throughout the race, despite Aston Martin, Sebastian Vettel chomping at the bit. Different strategies, pitting on different laps, but Ocon drove fabulously. So well done to Esteban Ocon. Unbelievably epic drive there by you to withstand the pressure from Sebastian Vettel. So it is going to be bonus points. It's going to be 15 points to Esteban Ocon for a fabulous race. Of course, everyone's going to say, yeah, he looked into it though, because half the field were wiped out at turn 1. Absolutely, but as mentioned in that turn 1, I think he had a little bit of a sixth sense there and decided to back out of it, not attack Charles, not attack Daniel Ricciardo. There was a gap in the middle for him. He didn't go for it in turn 1, and that is what saved his race. If he'd have stuck his nose in there like any other driver would have done in that situation, he'd have been wiped out of the race as well. So everything was made on that first lap, and he positioned his car perfectly, and you cannot fault a driver for that. And yes, he was lucky, but he had to withstand the pressure as well. So a worthy and well-deserved 15 points to Esteban Ocon. He's had a poor few races after signing his contract with Alpine for the next couple of years. And yeah, fabulous stuff there by Esteban. He's found his form now. Hopefully he can carry this forward. Well done, Esteban. And as mentioned, in P2 is Sebastian Vettel chomping at the bit of that Alpine car for a number of laps, in fact pretty much all the race to be honest. Aston Martin elected to pit in 1 lap earlier than Alpine. Alpine of course covered the pit stop from Aston Martin. Oh, unfortunately though, just 1 second slower in that pit box, and they came out and they were pretty much side by side rubbing wheels, weren't they, coming out of the pit lane when Esteban did make his pit stop. So had it not been for that slight error in the pit lane by the team, maybe, it could have been an Aston Martin win today. But it wasn't to be. That is racing. You win together, you lose together, and finishing P2 in that race is certainly no loss to Aston Martin. That is, of course, Sebastian Vettel and Aston Martin's second podium this season. And judging by the pace that they've been for the last few races, you wouldn't have thought a podium had been possible at all this year, but they're there to pick up the podiums when the crazy races happen. So well done, Sebastian Vettel. I would also like to note as well, Sebastian Vettel is under investigation currently for not following the correct FIA procedure for going to the national anthem, because he wore a Love is Love t-shirt, a gay pride t-shirt to the grid, just to the ceremony. Just fuck off. And well done to Sebastian Vettel as well for saying, they can disqualify me, I don't care, I'll do it again. Fantastic, fair play to Sebastian Vettel for that. He is he's doing so well, isn't he, for the community. He was there picking up rubbish at Silverstone, and he's there now supporting Black Lives Matter and, of course, gay pride as well. So well done to Sebastian Vettel for that, and well done, wise words there. You can disqualify me, do what you want, I'll do it again. Phenomenal stuff by Sebastian Vettel. Much more mature now than we've seen him, and a really likeable personality as well. So well done, Sebastian, for that. Well done for your race as well. It's going to be 11 points on the board for Sebastian Vettel. Massive congratulations to him on the podium this weekend. Phenomenal stuff. So happy to see him up there. So happy to see a smile on his face, and so happy to go fuck off FIA just because I'm wearing a fucking t-shirt. You wankers. Absolute wankers. Get with the fucking times, will you set of bastards. And then we come to Lewis Hamilton. It was up, down and all around for Lewis Hamilton this weekend, wasn't it? Max Verstappen wiped out at turn 1, as was Sergio Perez, as was his teammate. There was really no one to rival Hamilton after the red flag period came out. We just thought, everyone thought, it was just going to be an easy win from there. But then on the restart, he was the only driver to take the restart, as mentioned. 5 red lights went out. Everyone else was in the pit lane. And Lewis Hamilton was on the grid, and they ate into him, didn't he? The track had dried up so much between the wet conditions at the start, the red flag period, and going back out again. Everyone else jumped into the pits to swap their intermediate tyres onto a dry tyre, but Lewis Hamilton elected to take the start, and it was the wrong call. By the time he came into the pits, I think everyone was already behind him. So much had the track dried up that they'd come out of the pits after the pit lane light went green, and they'd already pretty much overtaken him by the time Hamilton had entered the pits, let alone exited, and came out last. He struggled a lot once he got onto the dry tyre compound, as a lot of people were stuck behind the Haas, weren't they? Mick Schumacher doing a cracking job. But Hamilton elected to pit early, and then that is what did it for him. That got him up the order then. That was perfect call by Mercedes and Hamilton to pit early, get onto the hard compound tyres and just thrash those tyres because he made up so much time. He got up as high as 5th place, then got stalled and stuck behind, I believe it was Carlos Sainz at that time, wasn't it? Or was it Pierre Gasly? I can't quite remember. But then once that had occurred, he pitted again, he came out in 5th. Then, of course, he had to stop again, pitted on lap 20 with 50 laps to go, of course. It was, the tyres were not going to last, so he pitted again on lap 48 for the medium tyres, gained up all the time he'd lost, was in P5, and had a massive battle on his hands with Fernando Alonso, didn't he? Alonso did not make it easy for him, and in the end Alonso made a slight mistake into turn 1, just locking up the wheel and going ever so slightly wide, but that was all the chance that Hamilton needed to get past Alonso, but Alonso held him up for so long. Sainz was an easy target. Sainz was on much older tyres, and Sainz had a lot to thank Alonso for as well, because with Hamilton battling with Alonso, it meant that he could just try and keep the gap. He wasn't pulling away, though. That's how knackered his tyres were ahead. So relatively easy pass on Carlos Sainz, and then hunted down the 2 places ahead, Sebastian Vettel and Esteban Ocon. It was less than a second behind Sebastian Vettel at the finish line, but because Alonso had held him up for all those laps, he just wasn't able to get through. So yeah, a cracking recovery drive by Hamilton after taking the restart on the grid. That was the fundamental flaw this race. I'm going to award him 8 points. I don't think it's a perfect 10 because I feel that there was a lot better drivers out there this weekend, and overall that one, I mean, we have radio silence, don't we, on the formation lap. Remember, both Haas's last year at Hungary, funnily enough, were penalised after the race because there'd been communications between team and driver on whether to switch tyres. Hamilton, of course, radio silence. He went to the grid. He thought, okay, we'll stay on Inters, and everyone else behind him pitted. I bet that was an oh shit moment when he looked behind him and thought, right, no one else is here, lads. But yeah, ultimately a great recovery drive. Some solid points for Lewis Hamilton. Takes the lead of the championship by 6 points now, I believe, over Max Verstappen. So yeah, 8 points ultimately to Lewis Hamilton. I'm not criticising the drive, but there were better people out there this weekend. And then we come to Carlos Sainz. Box now, Carlos. No, we're not boxing now. I'm telling you, we're staying out. I've got good pace. And he played a blinder, didn't he? Had Carlos Sainz pitted when they'd have told him to pit, he'd have probably ended up stuck behind the Ricardo train, the Max Verstappen. Raikkonen was in there as well, I think, wasn't he? Because they all got stuck behind a Haas. So fair play to Carlos Sainz for staying out there and sticking to his guns. And he was constantly telling the Ferrari team, wasn't he? Watch out for the Mercedes. They're going to stop again. Unfortunately, though, Ferrari did not pit again, And unfortunately for Carlos Sainz, he did lose out to position to Lewis Hamilton in the closing stages of the race. As mentioned, of course, he was massively thankful for Alonso for doing all he could do holding him up. And Alonso was chomping at the bit on Sainz at the end there for the last few laps. Once Hamilton had slipped through the pair of them, of course, but unfortunately wasn't to be for Alonso. He couldn't get through. And Carlos Sainz takes a solid P4 after a drastic, dismal qualifying, wasn't it, to be fair? He had a crash in qualifying in P15. So a big shame for him. But overall, a solid weekend. And for the reason of the crash in qualifying and a solid P4 finish, it's going to be 9 points. Might be a generous 9. I was toying between 8 or 9. But I think you've got to give him credit where credit is due. And had he just obeyed what Ferrari told him, it'd have been well outside the top 5. He'd have been probably 7th or 8th, battling with the likes of the Williams cars. So, yeah, I commend him for that. Crash was unfortunate in qualifying, but he recovered well. So 9 points to Carlos Sainz. Next up is Fernando Alonso, and what a champion drive that was from Fernando. He had a lot of mojo in the car, didn't he? He was putting some impressive laps in qualifying. Q3 didn't quite go his way, out-qualified by his teammate. And in the race again, he avoided the carnage, avoided the chaos, and he stayed out longer as well. So he pretty much copied what the two front runners did with Vettel and Ocon, and not falling into this trap of pitting early. He stayed out there for a long time, had much fresher tyres at the end. And he put up a really solid defence against Lewis Hamilton. A cracking drive by Fernando Alonso. And he is the main reason why Esteban Ocon won this weekend. Of course, Ocon had to fight off Vettel by himself. But had he just not fought Hamilton as tough as he did, Hamilton would have won. Hamilton would have won easily. We saw once Hamilton got into clear air, he was gaining 3 seconds a lap on the two leaders. So, I mean, he kept him behind for so long. So a massive congratulations to the Alpine team and to Fernando Alonso for not only bagging himself a solid P5 result, but for heavily assisting in Ocon gaining that victory. So well done to him. It's going to be bonus points. It's going to be 12 points to Fernando Alonso. People might think that's generous when I only score Vettel 11, but ultimately, like I mentioned, Alonso was responsible for the Alpine victory today. And it has to be commended. So well done to Fernando Alonso. A thoroughly enjoyable battle. Yes, you did make that slight mistake which let Hamilton through at the end, but I'm not going to let him off. I'm going to let him off with that, of course. So well done to Fernando Alonso. 12 points to you on the crawl room. A good weekend for Alpine. And then we come to Pierre Gasly. Max Verstappen will be thanking Pierre Gasly for pitting with 2 laps to go and snatching the fastest lap point away from Lewis Hamilton on the final lap. That was a crucial point, could be a crucial point in the championship as well. And Pierre Gasly drove a stunning race, didn't he? A cracking qualifying in P5. He was thrilled with that, the best of the rest category. Then at the turn, at the first corner, he thankfully, I don't think he picked up damage, but he got shoved wide and taking evasive action of all the death and destruction in front of him and wiggled his way through, but was down outside the points in P12, P13, somewhere around there. And then again, of course, when it came to the restart, he was in that position. He was stuck in the dirty air of cars around him, could do nothing about it. But then as other people pitted early, pitted late, etc., he worked his way through via the strategy option. And Sonoda let him through as well in the closing stages. So a P6 finish, here he is, a fantastic recovery from a difficult start that wasn't his fault. It's going to be a perfect 10 for Pierre Gasly. I think that was a solid drive, a fastest lap point as well. Could do no better than that. I think if it had avoided the carnage, we'd have certainly been expecting a podium from him this weekend. But nonetheless, a cracking drive by Pierre Gasly. Thoroughly deserving of a full 10 points. Next up we come to Yuki Sonoda, the curious case of Yuki Sonoda here, and I'm probably harsh on this one, but I feel he needs to get it together, doesn't he? He needs to get it together now, out in Q1 once again while his teammate's up in P5. He ended up P4 on the road, of course, at the restart after all the problems ahead with all the crashing and the destruction as mentioned, and of course Hamilton having to pit. And he was P4 for a while. He couldn't get around Latifi, which was crucial to his race, because had he managed to sneak around Latifi, it could have easily been up there with Ocon and, of course, Vettel in the Aston Martin. So that was a shame. That was a shame to see that he couldn't get round him, and ultimately that cost him in the race. He tumbled down the order a little bit then, just as the cars that pitted later snuck their way through. And here he is, P7, shouting on the radio again as well, telling Gasly to hurry up after he'd allowed him through. Yuki, I really like the guy, I really do. And I think P7 should be happy with it, but I just expected so much more from him in a race that he could have had more. I know the dirty air, of course, affected a lot of cars, and he couldn't get around the Williams, and that's fair enough, but I just expected more from him, and Gasly's there once again out racing him after being shovelled off at the start. Yeah, just a shame from Yuki, and the shouting on the radio, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So it is going to be 7 points to Yuki Sonoda, probably a harsh 7, but you know what I'm like when it comes to moaning over the radio and shouting. And fundamentally, he had a good position there, potentially lost because he couldn't get around that Williams. So yeah, 7 points to Yuki Sonoda, probably harsh, but I feel it's fair. Next up, we come to Nicholas Latifi picking up 8th place and 4 points and finishing ahead of his teammate George Russell. Why does it always happen to George, yeah? Every time Williams picks up a point, there's always his teammate finishing ahead. But not to worry. Unfortunately, Nicholas Latifi is disqualified on the crawl room for his shenanigans in the last few races, being dismal and being shite. And I'm not going to undisqualify him just because he's finished in the points after a mad race. But PA not to be sniffed at. Congratulations to Latifi. Congratulations to the whole of the Williams team. I'm dead chussed for him, but unfortunately his earlier antics has meant he's disqualified on the crawl room, and I don't go back on disqualifications anymore. So there we go. Unfortunate for Nicholas Latifi. I would love to give him bonus points, but I can't. Well, I could, because it's my series and I do what I like, but I'm not going to. That's let's leave it at that. But yeah, I do fully commend Latifi on what he did this weekend. A solid job. And then we come to George Russell, as mentioned, his teammate picking up more points than him, but here he is, 2 points on the board for George Russell, finally scoring points, finally. And would you believe it was after his worst qualifying of the season, not making it through into Q2, lining up P17, the car just didn't look comfortable, did it? And yes, here he is picking up 2 points and 6 points overall for Williams, which leapfrog them ahead of Alfa Romeo now. I said Alfa Romeo needed to watch the backs for a number of races, and they finally dropped the ball, and Williams have finally scored points. So yeah, George Russell, it's 10 points. It has to be 10 points. It can be no other than 10 points for that drive. I want to say as well, a massive respect to George for when it was early stages in the race and he knew that Latifi was ahead of him. He just said, look, prioritise Nick. We need some points here today, lads. You know, if you need to pit me early, pit me late. Do what you need to do. Put Nick on the ultimate strategy, basically. So fair play to for George for that radio call, and a fantastic effort for him picking up points. He was in tears, bless him, wasn't he, during the interview with one of the journalists. I can't remember what channel it was. It wasn't English. Hungarian, I think it may have been. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. So I'm well chuffed for Williams. I'm well chuffed for George Russell. It's a perfect 10. And then we come to Max Verstappen. Oh, dearie me. Here he is picking up 1 point. So it could be a crucial point in the championship, but he's lost the championship lead now, as have Red Bull in the Constructors. Only picking up 4 points in the last 2 races, and that is 3 of those are as a result of the sprint race. So they've got to be thankful that format was there, otherwise it would have just been the 1. So yeah, 4. Oh, just a shame, isn't it? Just a shame. Valtteri Bottas comes barrel rolling into turn 1, had no intentions of making the corner, ploughs into the back of Norris, who then in turn ploughs into the side of Verstappen, and lucky to keep going was Max, heavily damaged with the barge board and with the floor damage. They managed to replace the floor, but they couldn't replace the barge board in time during the red flag. And yeah, very unfortunate. Just a shame, taken out again. So 2 races, not Verstappen's fault at all, but this is racing, isn't it? So for Max Verstappen, I'm going to treat him effectively as a retirement. I know he got caught up behind Mick Schumacher for a while. He had some cracking battles with him, and then he got stuck behind Mick again, who didn't pit for a long time in the race. So yeah, you know what, it's difficult to judge. He had an heavily damaged car. We don't know how damaged it was. So for that reason, it is just going to be a middle of the road 5 points to Max Verstappen. I can't criticise him on a race that he was massively unfortunate in, and I think even if it had cleared the trains that he was stuck in, I don't think he'd have done any better, because the damage to the car would have been too severe to catch up to anyone else around him. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say for Max. Picking up a point is crucial. Gasly picking up that fastest lap point away from Hamilton could be crucial as well. And refocus now. We've got the summer break to go into things, get his mindset re-sorted out, and fingers crossed Red Bull team can come back stronger in Spa. So yeah, we'll look forward to that. But yeah, just a middle of the row 5 to Max. And then we come to Kimi Raikkonen.
I got a new job on Valtteri Bottas' girlfriend. It's just a wig, you bastards.
And yes, possibly a controversial Palmer of the Week there, but I feel that Kimi Raikkonen needs punishing once again. Because once again, the Alfa Romeo team have thrown it away, haven't they? They have thrown it away. This was their perfect chance this weekend to do something, to get into the points, and it's not happened. Raikkonen's finishing P11, which is just... Oh, there's a Williams there getting 6 points. And they've not managed to do anything. He got a 10-second penalty for unsafe relief on Marzi spin, which was entirely the team's fault. I know that. And Raikkonen did a good recovery to get into 11th. But for God's sake, I'm genuinely frustrated with Alfa Romeo. I really am. They were so much promise when they had the other points taken away from them. I thought was unfair. I think everyone agreed with me that was unfair. Then we scored a couple of points at Monaco and at Spain, I believe it was, wasn't he, picking up a point? And then I was expecting them to be scoring points left, right and centre, and here they are, just missed opportunity when only 14 cars finish, and you'd got both cars still in the race, which was a lot more than most teams, and here you are outside the points. So yeah, unfortunately, Palmer of the Week for Kimi Raikkonen might be harsh, and I do believe it is harsh, because Raikkonen, I think, overall had a good qualifying, his best of the season, it actually in the format that we know and love. But yeah, and in the race it just all came undone. So, you know, I think he should have been in the points this weekend, and that's why it's Palmer. I'm being very harsh to the Alfa Romeo drivers this weekend. Palmer of the Week 2, Kimi Raikkonen. And next up, of course, is Daniel Ricciardo. No points for McLaren. Wow. Wow, no points for McLaren. And Ricciardo drove shite. I know he had damage at the start. He got spun round, didn't he? He got collected. So it was lucky that he didn't retire. He had damage. His front wing got knocked off and he got pirouetted round. But yeah, I just don't know what to make of Danny Rick. He had a poor qualifying again. And then, like I said, the start of the race he was taken out. And then in the race could make no headway around any of the cars that he was racing with. Verstappen snuck through for P10 and then Raikkonen snuck through for P11, and here he is in P12. A forgettable race. A dismal race, and I'm going to award him just 2 points for that. He escapes Palmer because he may have had damage that we were unaware of. I'm convinced he had some sort of damage because a lot of teams took a lot of whackage in that first corner. But overall, I think, you know, damaged car or not, it should have been points, or it should have been, you know, battling with Max. I don't think Max should have got through on him, to be honest, with the amount of damage that we know Max had. And unbelievably, just an unfortunate race from Ricardo. So yeah, 2 points. He escapes a Palmer, thankfully for him, but not a high score at all. And then we come to Mick Schumacher, one of the drivers of the weekend in my opinions, one of the drivers of the day. And what a fighting performance that was. He was never going to get points. We knew he wasn't. He took the restart in P10. And, of course, they all started in the pit lane, as we well know. And he kept the likes of Ricardo, Max Verstappen behind him. We had the Alfa Romeos behind him. Who else did we have behind him as well? Pierre Gasly was behind him as well, of course. Lewis Hamilton was behind him as well. And he had such a fighting performance in that first stint. Fantastic, fantastic effort. Everyone else elected to pit early, so this tumble behind him again. That's what cost Ricardo, Verstappen their race. And then all of a sudden Mick was there again, and he was fighting. They were fighting again, and it was such a cracking battle to see the racecraft that Mick Schumacher has got, which we've not seen this season. We haven't seen that this season, apart from Latifi at Portugal when he overtook him there. But yeah, a fantastic performance by Nick. A cracking effort. You know, the strategy wasn't there to be able to score points. The car wasn't there to be able to score points. But wasn't it lovely to see him running around in that P9, P10 area, having a battle with the likes of Max Verstappen, Pierre Gasly, Lewis Hamilton, that we're never probably going to see again this season. So, well done, Mick Schumacher. A cracking drive. He had that crash in FP3, which meant he couldn't qualify. Which was very unfortunate, and Gunter Steiner wasn't happy with that because they're running low on parts, I think, aren't they? And Schumacher has been a bit of a shunter this year, hasn't he? We were always expecting it to be Marzi spin, and unfortunately Marzi spin is just too slow to crash, so he will just spin. Whereas Mick, he crashes, doesn't he? So yeah, big damage. And I am going to still award him, though, 10 points, because I think that spirited battle needs noting. Of course, he's made a mistake. He's a rookie. I'll allow him that crash. I don't think Gunter will, but I will. And overall, I'm very impressed with Mick Schumacher's racing wheel-to-wheel combat with cars that were faster than him, that are like 2 and 3 seconds a lap faster than him as well. So, well done, Mick. I'm very, very happy with that. I was pleased to see you there. Cracking, cracking drive. Well done. 10 points. And then we come to the last of the finishers of the race. It's Antonio Giovinazzi.
I'm driving for Mercedes next year. The safety car, you bastards.
And there you go, I said it was going to be harsh with the Alfa Romeo drivers, and that is double Palmer of the Week to both of their drivers. It is the first of the season for Antonio, but I feel it was thoroughly deserved there. He made a silly strategic call at the start of the race to go onto the medium compound tyres, while everyone else was saying this might be wets, not intermediates. So yeah, went on the medium tyres. I mean, it could have potentially got him out of the carnage, so it could have saved him, but we don't know. Took the restart just fine, but unfortunately during the restart area and then pitting and boxing, he sped in the pit lane. So he had a 10-second stop-go penalty, which is a more severe penalty than taking your rival out of the championship race. But there we go, it doesn't matter. So Antonio Giovinazzi got a 10-second stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He did it in Austria, so I think that's why he got a more severe penalty this time. And yeah, ruined his own race and was never in contention for points thereon. So yeah, Alfa Romeo constantly dropping the ball, and they've dropped the ball now to the point where they're 4 points behind Williams in the Constructors' Championship, and it's such a shame to see. So yeah, Antonio Giovinazzi, an overdue potentially Palmer of the Week. He's not been doing too well the last few races, and here he is now picking up Palmer of the Week for a dismal drive. And then we come to the list of retirements, a long list, 6 of them to get through. Mazepin was the last of those retirements in the race, so the first on this list, of course. And as you all know by now, if you're a regular of the series, I don't award him points. I don't think he deserves points. I don't think he even deserves a mention. So we just let Dan Mushy Gaming, the person that does the scores for me, he has his own fun with Mazepin on the scoreboard. So look forward to that at the end to see what he's going to put there. But yeah, well done, Mazepin, for not doing very much, unfortunately, but wasn't your fault, but there you go. So yeah, look forward to the end when we get to the point scoring system, see what fun Dan has had with him. And next up on this list, I think it's pretty much in no particular order, just who crashed the furthest away from everyone else. It's Lando Norris. Short and sweet by Lando. He had a good qualifying, not the best of the season though. He lined up P6, but had a stonking start off the line. Got ahead of Bottas, was looking to be potentially P3 into turn 1. Bottas went doink, pinball, and he just flung his stealth straight into the side of Max Verstappen after, of course, he got hit by Valtteri Bottas, and that was him out on the spot really, pretty much. He managed to limp it to the pit lane, didn't he? And then McLaren announced to the FIA that, yep, we're retiring the car. So yeah, middle of the road, 5 points to Lando Norris. There's going to be a lot of that coming now. Can't judge a race by turn 1, and, you know, just one of those things. So yeah, Lando Norris's points run comes to an end after a stunning performance in the last 10 races. So yeah, what a shame, but there you go. Looking like it could have been P3 into turn 1, but we'll never know for sure because he was wiped out. And again, Sergio Perez, yeah, it's going to be middle of the road, 5 points to him again as well. He was taken out at the same time as, of course, Lando Norris in the same incident. Bottas went doink, Norris went doink into Verstappen, and the remains of Bottas's car went doink into the side of Perez. Perez didn't make it round into the pits, unfortunately. I think he busted a radiator because when he hit the side, you could see fluid and smoke coming out the back of the car. So, yeah, what a shame to think that he's cooked the engine as well, trying to get it back to the pits, which will be unfortunate. And again, a lot of damage, a lot of repair bills again for Red Bull this weekend, and just shambolic driving by Bottas, but we'll get to him in a minute. And here he is, Valtteri Bottas is next on this list, and yeah, shambolic driving. I mean, to be honest, he'll literally do anything, won't he, now to keep his Mercedes seat. Just pathetic. I mean, what was that? I mean, we saw on the replays, didn't we, how massively he'd outbraked himself in comparison to the cars ahead. And that's why he arse-ended Lando like he did, because Lando was already on the brakes, and then Bottas was like, oh, shit, brake, and then locked up and went doink, straight into the back of him. He took out Perez, Norris, himself. Gasly was affected but not damaged, I don't believe. Who else did the hit? Must have been someone else. Surely must have been someone else the hit. I can't remember who, but yeah, Max, of course, was taken out in that as well. So yeah, big accident there. Absolutely needless by Bottas. He's disqualified on the cruel room anyway, and this is why. Yeah, shameful and shambolic bit of driving by Bottas there. Pathetic, really. Absolutely pathetic. Crap driver. He bogged down at the start and then massively outbraked himself and just T-boned and pinballed everyone. Absolutely pathetic. So yeah, Valtteri Bottas, I think trying to maybe take out your rivals to keep your job, I think you're meant to stay in the race. So it didn't quite work out for you. But yeah, pathetic by Bottas. And only a 5-place grid penalty for the next race. Only a 5-place grid penalty. George got 3 for a slight bit of contact on Sainz at Silverstone, where Sainz was still in the race. He's took 3 cars out, and yeah, no further action pretty much. To 5 places. I mean, that's just going to put him in danger zone to do it again at Spa. Well, we'll see anyway. But yeah, I think that should have personally been a 10th place or a pit lane start even, just to get him out of the way of everyone, because he's clearly a danger. But there you go, Valtteri Bottas. And then we come to Sha-la-la. It's Sha-la-la, and he Sha-la-la'd his way into turn 1 and then got T-boned by Lance Stroll, and there we go. What a shame for Sha-la-la. I've not even got the energy to say it. I just feel so sorry for him, and so disappointed to all the guys and drivers that were affected in that incident at the start. 2 absolute dingbats, my 2 least favourite drivers on the grid, and they go and do that, the pair of them. Absolutely idiotic. Stroll just massively outbraked himself, and he tried to dive on the grass to think that'll slow him down and avoid contact with other cars. He just ploughed straight into the side of Leclerc, which in turn tagged and spun around Daniel Ricciardo, and just, oh dearie me, what a shame for Charles. After a cracking qualifying, he did nothing from there, did he? So yeah, shame by Leclerc. Middle of the road, 5 points again. I can't do anything else, unfortunately. It's the 5 wall rather than the cruel room this time, isn't it? But there we go. Yeah, Charles, I'm sure he'll come back stronger next race. And then we come to Lance Stroll.
I sell my body now to make ends meet, you bastards.
Of course, it could be nothing else, and it's funny how I was discussing in a group chat a couple of weeks ago saying, oh, very strange I've not given Palmer to Lance Stroll yet, but he's done a solid job, and everyone was saying he'll screw up soon. And here he is. He screwed up, didn't he? He screwed up. He totally missed his braking point and ploughed straight into the side of Charles Leclerc, tagging Ricardo around as well, and causing a lot of death, destruction and damage, and taking himself out of the race as well. What a knob. What an absolute knob. So yeah, it's Palmer of the Week 2, Lance Stroll. He was going to screw up at some point, and here it is. So there we go. What a shame. What a catastrophic turn 1. And what a shambolic race, really, at the start of that race for 2 drivers that are supposedly professionals to take out half the field and affect half the field in their race was just dismal. So there we go, that was the runners and riders of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any too high, any too low? What are your thoughts on that turn 1 incident between Bottas, Stroll, with the more they could have done? Was it done on purpose by Bottas? Oh, I love a good juicy topic. So as always, the scores for the Cruel Room series are on the screen now. Thank you so much as always to Dan Mushy Gaming for doing this scoreboard, because without him this series will be more pointless than it already is. He does a cracking job every single week, gets them to me straight away as soon as I give him the scores, and he's massively improved the board over recent weeks as well, which is good to see. And as always, a massive thank you to Dave, F1 Games PlayStation, for the Jolie and Palmer skits you all know and love by now. And I'm going to have to order some more because I've given 3 away this weekend. I'll need some more from you, please, Dave. So there you have it, guys. Thanks as always for watching. Leave your thoughts and feedback down below. I look forward to all your lovely comments. I look forward to replying to them all as well. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. And as always, much love.